All right, hello students. Today we're on lesson 6, rational numbers on the number line. So let's go ahead and kind of do this kind of opening exercise. Hopefully it should be a little review of kind of our understanding of decimals and fractions and kind of how they relate. So for A, I, double I, and triple I, it says write the decimal equivalent of each fraction. So if we look at this 1/2, several of you may know that 1/2 is equal to 0.5. Remember, if you don't, what you can do is you can convert or try to change anyways, the bottom number to either look like 10 or 100. You might ask why 10. Remember, this is called the tenths place. This 5 is in the tenths place. So if I change the bottom to be 10, then I can change the top, and that top portion goes in the tenths place. So of course I multiply both top and bottom by 5 in this case to get, because 2 times 5 is 10, and the top is of course 5. So remember, we read this fraction as 5/10. So of course this decimal is also known as 5/10 or 0.5. So if we kind of follow this rule or continue with this rule all the way down, we can rewrite I or double I. This would be, of course, 0.8 or 8/10. And of course, we can prove that by kind of doing the same thing we did over here. If I have 4/5 and I want to make the bottom turn into 10, I'd multiply by 2. So if I multiply the bottom by 2, because 5 times 2 is 10, well, then I multiply the top by 2 and get 8. And if we read this fraction, oops, I put 8 up there. The answer should be 8. Let's go ahead and erase that. I apologize. It's kind of getting ahead of myself. When you multiply by the bottom, of course, you have to multiply that by the top. And of course, this is 8/10. The decimal equivalent, remember, this is called 8/10 or 0.8. If we look down here at number 3 or triple I, well, the whole number, remember the left side of the decimal, if I have a decimal point, the left side over here is the whole values. So this whole number is sitting out there simply gets put to the left. That's one reason why both of these have zeros over here, is because there's no whole value. It's just a simple fraction. But this is called a mixed number. This has a whole value of 6, so 6 comes first. It's 6 point, and the fraction portion comes on the right side. So actually, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take out a different color and say the fraction portion here comes on the left side. So 7/10, of course, is just 6.7. Well, this one's already over 10, kind of like this one was 10, this one was 10. So I just simply take the top number and put it there. All right, and there you go. That's kind of how you convert the fractions to the decimals. Now, if you can't easily change it to 10, you want to change it to 100. And then if not, we'll kind of talk about that later on. All right, let's go ahead and kind of go the opposite direction. It says write the fraction equivalent of each decimal. So we're going to kind of go the kind of the other way. So if we look at this, this is 0.42. Well, if there's a 0 here, that means there's no whole value. And if we look at this, this is 42 or 42 hundredths. That means we simply put the 42 over its place value, and this is 42 hundredths, so it goes over 100. Well, we don't want fractions in this form. We want to simplify down the fractions. So, of course, we can divide. These are both even numbers. We can divide both top and bottom by 2, and that gives us 21 over 50. So the equivalent fraction to 42 hundredths is 21 50ths. There you go. Now, as we move on kind of to the next one, this one now has a whole value. So we're going to have a number kind of sitting out in front. I'm going to kind of do this in 2 different ways, or kind of 2 different steps. So 3 is a whole value. So that's going to be sitting there. Then we're going to have a fraction sitting next to it. And the fraction, of course, deals with just everything to the right of the decimal. So once again, we have 75. This is 3 and 75 hundredths. So this goes over 100. And of course, then we try to simplify this with what goes into both 75 and 100. Well, you can do this in 1 or 2 steps. Well, first, 5 does. I'm going to kind of do this in 2 steps. 5 goes into 75, I believe that is, let's think about that. 5 goes into 7 once with 2 left over and goes into it 15 times. Of course, you can do the division on the side if needed. And 5 goes into 120 times. And then, of course, these are both going to be simplified again, so I can divide by 5 one more time, and I get 3. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 20 divided by 5, of course, is 4. So the fraction of this is 3/4. The whole value we just simply leave alone. We don't change the whole value or anything to the left of the decimal. We just kind of change everything to the right of the decimal to look like a fraction. So let's go and box that in, just kind of show that this is one answer, not two. All right, so we kind of take that same idea and same philosophy to the next one. Everything to the left of the decimal gets left alone. The 36 just simply is there. We want to turn the 90 into, or 0.9 into a fraction. Well, because this is a 0, we really don't need it. So it's not 90 hundredths, it's actually 9/10. So just simply put 9 over 10. Can 9/10 be simplified? And the answer is no. So there's your answer. Okay, because it's a 0 there and it's on the end, there's nothing after it. There's like a 2 or a 3 after it. We couldn't just cancel it out. But because it's there, we can cancel it out when we don't really need it. All right, so this is kind of the first video kind of dealing with decimals and fractions. Hopefully a little bit of a review of kind of how to make those changes.